All right, this is lesson 8.2, part B, area of trapezoids. So on a trapezoid, you have two pairs of parallel sides, and those are typically drawn on the top and bottom. And those two parallel sides are called the bases. So I'm going to call this one a base, and I'm going to call this one a base. Now, because we have two, we have to distinguish between them, and so we have to call one of them base 1 and one base 2. It does not matter which one is which. So I'm going to put a little 1 and a little 2 here. The formula for area of a trapezoid is base 1 plus base 2, and then that quantity, that total, times the height, and then divided by 2. And when we're looking at the height of a trapezoid, it's the perpendicular distance between the two bases. So this would be the height. All right, so now we're going to practice plugging in and solving for an area, and then also undoing the area formula to solve for a missing portion. So down here I have two examples. This first one says base 1 is 10, so that would be this top image here. Oh, that's terrible. Let me try again. Now we're going to zoom in here. Better. All right, so base 1 is 10, so that's going to be this top number. And base 2 is 6, that will be this bottom number, and the height is 4. And so we're just going to plug this into that formula. Area equals base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to pause your video and try this formula with these numbers to see if your solution, when you punch it in or write it down or whatever, comes out to be the same as mine. So pause your video and try the problem. All right, here is the solution. So the solution would be to take 10 plus 6, the two bases, multiply by the height, which is 4, and then divide by 2. And I'm going to grab my calculator because I don't like doing things by hand if I don't have to. But if you like doing the problem by hand, that's totally fine. So I'm going to do 10 plus 6 first. That comes out to 16. Then I'm going to multiply by 4, and then I'm going to divide by 2. So when I punch all of this into my calculator, doing the quantity 10 plus 6 first, my answer comes out to be 32. Okay, now if I go back up and look at the units, there are no units listed for any of these measurements. So I can't put centimeters or anything. So I'm going to use the generic symbol U for units. And then because this is area, that's a two-dimensional figure, so this is units squared. So the answer here is 32 units squared. All right, so now we're going to do the same formula, but undoing the math or using a T-chart to solve for a missing portion. So I'm going to write down the formula again. Okay, so base 1 plus base 2, that quantity times the height divided by 2. So up here it says base 1 is 20, that would be this top number. The height is 8, that would be the perpendicular length from the base. And the area, the whole space inside, is 208 millimeters squared. Find B2. So that means B2 is our unknown. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in all these numbers into their respective values and then do a T-chart to solve. So the A would be the 208 millimeters squared. I'm keeping the parentheses. Base 1 was a length of 20. And because of the area's measurement millimeters squared, that means that our base lengths and our heights would be millimeters. All right, base 2 is still base 2. We don't know what that is, so I'm going to leave it as B2. And then times our height, and our height was a length of 8 millimeters. And then divide by 2. So at this point, I want you to try and solve this T-chart. So you are going to have to pause your video and then try working this out to see what you can get for the answer for base 2. And then play the video to see if your answer matches mine. All right, so I'm going to do order of operations backwards. I'm going to start by getting rid of this divide by 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And then 208 times 2 is 416. The 2's on the right cancel, so I still have the quantity 20 plus B2 times 8. The next thing I'm going to get rid of is the times by 8. The opposite of multiply would be to divide. I'm going to divide both sides by 8. And you guys know me, I'm not super slick with math in my head. So I'm going to grab a calculator. 416 divided by 8 comes out to the answer of 52. And then the 8's cancel. And at this point, there's nothing left outside of the parentheses. So we can actually drop the parentheses and just have 20 plus base 2. So our final last step is to get rid of the 20. Oops. And because the 20 is positive and it's being added to the base 2, we are going to subtract it. So subtract 20 from both sides. And then on the right, we just have B2 left, which is the answer we're looking for. And 52 minus 20 would give me 32. And because the original area was in millimeters squared, this base length is a singular length, so this would be millimeters. And that would be our answer. All right, I hope that helped you with some of the examples. Certainly replay it if you need to, or contact me if you have questions.